Hey guys, welcome back to the Jay Spit Down Podcast. Jayden, your host again, once again, here with my good friend Sheldon, classmate of mine at Georgia State. You know, we both love ourselves some football. Sheldon plays football for Georgia State too. But now we're gonna have him give us his opinion on Tom Brady's retirement as well as our season in review segment this time for the Atlanta Falcons. So before we get started, make sure you guys subscribe, check us out here. You know the deal. And Sheldon, man, so we got news today. Again, Tom Brady, the GOAT, right? He retires again.
Yep.
And it's funny, man. You know that this was a year ago today. He made the same announcement, the exact same day, February 1st, 2022. And
I remember, I remember the first time it happened around. I was jumping for joy, Everybody was just like, yes, finally, Tom Brady's gone. Next year, the NFC South is going to just be dominated by Atlanta for years to come, even though, Matt Ryan was getting a little old. And then about what happened 3 months later, came back, ruined the division.
Indeed.
So, I'm just hoping if this actually happens, and Brady is finally gone, the Falcons might be a dangerous team come playoff time.
Well, we'll dive into that here in a second here because, again, yes, like I mentioned, the Falcons will be our team for our season in review segment, something new we're starting here on Jay Sit Down, where I'm going to be doing a season review for every team in the NFL, all 32 teams, and we already did the Dolphins the other day. Now we're doing the Falcons. But before we get to that, man, Tom Brady. 7-time champ. We all know the deal. And he retires. Now the Bucs, dude. They were pretty much a train wreck this year. So I can't really blame him if he is done. Right?
Yeah. The Bucs. Tom Brady. He is. I hate to admit, but he is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, probably the greatest player of all time. And he'll definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer, had an illustrious career, although painful at some times. But yeah, I'm happy to see him retire, but I'm also a little bit sad as a football fan, see him go, because he really put on a great show for, everybody, even though love him or hate him. He was the best at what he did.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. You can't, like I said, no matter where you stand on, he is who he is. He's the greatest to play the game. Especially at the quarterback position, you can even make an argument for, just in general. What he's able to do, his mind, he's very intelligent, the accuracy where he plays the football. We can sit here and talk about all the things he can do all day long, but then we would sound like, like those certain, NFL announcers who like to, ride players a lot, which I don't want to be. So I won't do that. But I will say this, Tom, great career. Now, is there, do you have a game where you remember watching him play? Like, everybody's got a Tom Brady game where he just, made you like, what the crap, dude? How are you supposed to stop this?
Yeah, I got a perfect game because, it really hurt me. Super Bowl 51. It was probably one of the first games I watched Tom Brady fully in action. Like, you kind of, as an NFC player, as an NFC fan, you kind of hear what Tom Brady be doing in the league, but you never really watch him play, like break down a defense and, carry his team. That game, I watched the whole game from beginning to end, and he was incredible. He was incredible for maybe 2.5 quarters. He seemed like an average quarterback. Who's this Tom Brady guy? They call him the GOAT. But during that third and fourth quarter, I'll never forget the incredible, precise, unbelievable drives that he put up, and he brought his team back 28-3, but it was like magical. It was like seeing something special, like out of a movie. But he was just incredible that game. That was probably one of the greatest Tom Brady games. I'll like give him, he deserved it. I'll say that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Super Bowl 51, everybody in the Atlanta area should be well familiar with that game, football fan or not. But we won't really mention why. But like Sheldon already alluded to, 23 deficit, we all know how the story ends there. So, but I think for me, my favorite game by Tom Brady, or I say like it's a really good game, was I have to go Super Bowl 53
Mm.
against the Rams in Atlanta, because just by the way, man, it was a low scoring game, but he was still precise with the football. He made some really big throws, especially to Rob Gronkowski at a crucial point in the game, and it got the 2 yard line, and they were able to get in there and score, and win that game. I think he had like almost near 500 passing yards that game too, in that game in the Super Bowl. So, and of course, he won his fifth ring there. So, but yeah, like I said, man, Tom, wish you the best. But thank you. Now that we won't have to deal with you anymore. And that brings me into the other team in NFC South that Tom had to play against twice the last couple of years, the Falcons. Dude, so Falcons finished 7-10 on the year. Marcus Mariota's brought in to be the starting quarterback. He throws 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in 13 games. If you had to just put a whole recap on the Falcons season, how would you describe it, bro? Like what because we talked about this before off screen, but how would you describe it?
I would describe the season as disappointing, but there's a lot of upside to it. Like the way that it's the way how the team overcame adversity, especially throughout the end of the season, that really showed. Like we seen guys come up like Richie Grant, D. Alford emerging before he got injured, and then you guys got guys like Tyler Algier, Desmond Ritter, rookies, Drake London also improving, probably the best players on the team. So looking into next year, I believe they get some pieces, some good pieces on defense, maybe a key offensive player too, and they'll just be deadly. But the season with Ritter, or not with Ritter, with Mariota, he showed flashes of his greatness that made you think, okay, maybe this guy, he could be a solid answer for us. But he also showed a lot of incompetence. That was also a few downfalls that caused us some losses. But overall, the season, I was happy for it. Seeing guys step up, people come through, veterans and youngsters alike. But I'm just happy to where we're going as a team. I feel like we're starting to create an identity for ourselves in this league. We're not blowing leads almost every game. We could come back and win games like how they showed in Cleveland. And, we could be up there with the big dogs, just not this season.
Right, not this season. So,
yeah.
But you made a good point there, man. It felt like almost the game, managing and stuff like that. It seemed like for the Falcons, it got a little bit better than as opposed to the last couple of years. So maybe the decisions in a couple of games, were better, like as opposed to last season. Arthur Smith, I think, was a head coach for them. And I mean, even the defense, man. They were still atrocious, but I mean, they, a lot of games they were bending, but they didn't break. I mean, they had actually a solid red zone defense this year. I don't know if you noticed that, but you got in the red zone, the Falcons for the most part held their own. Forced field goals for a good portion of the season. So that's a big improvement I saw from them. Man, was that red zone defense, but man, just from the 25 to the 20, we got to fix that. All of that stuff,
Yeah.
we got to fix that. So I mean, and offensively, Marcus Mariota, dude, like to win this league, you got to be able to throw the ball more than 15 yards down the field. And on a consistent basis, you have to do it. And when you can't like hit corner routes and digs, like that's an issue. So
Yeah.
hopefully Desmond Ritter can be the answer. But did you like what you saw out of him and his action near the end of the season?
Oh, Desmond Ritter, I loved what I saw from him. It reminded me truly of, like, I would say Matt Ryan, but with a little bit more dual threat like Mariota. So it was kind of a mix of our last two quarterbacks, really. But I loved to see, him progressing through each game. He was getting better and better, especially through Baltimore. When he played Baltimore, he really showed what he could really do. Baltimore is known for having great defense. And he really, he threw over 200 yards, didn't throw any interceptions. Actually, he didn't throw any interceptions on the season, which I love to see. But, it seemed like every game he was slowly taking another step. Now, if we would have had him, earlier in the season, he could have taken who knows what he could have taken. He could have took a great big step and, really helped his team win. But those last few games, he showed why he should be the starting quarterback for the Falcons.
Yeah, he definitely did. His Arthur Smith mentioned that he from the neck up, he's one of the smartest players he's ever worked with. I mean, and Ritter is a smart kid, and I think that's gonna of course go to his advantage because again, like you have to be just football is situational awareness, as you and I both know, playing the sport and playing the sport. That situational awareness is important in the game of football. It's extremely important. And for quarterbacks, you've got to be situationally aware of what's going on and defense and what they're in. Not only that, just little tidbit of stuff, man. I think Desmond Ritter has that. He's only going to continue to grow on that. So, what was your favorite game this year from the Falcons? Like the game where you were like, okay, this is the best I've seen them play. In a long time.
Favorite game, I would have said
win or loss.
Win or loss?
Win or loss.
Oh, I would have to go. I would say the Buccaneers game, final game of the season. Facing Tom Brady. We have something to prove. Never beat him. Now, even though after the second quarter, they kind of took him out and they put in the secondary players. The team really showed like what they had to offer, especially for like next season. You had guys like Ebiketie, Richie Grant making plays. And then you also had, Desmond Ritter, Drake London finally showing that connection that everybody wanted them to see. And, Tyler Algier, he went over 100 yards, showed off how great of a running back he is. And, just the defense altogether, it showed like they only gave up 2 touchdowns. It showed that, the defense was solidly improving over time of what they can do and, what Dan Pease has created for that defense. So, and plus beating Tom Brady, that'll always be a joy to me. So I would have to go that for my favorite game.
Yeah. And it's supposedly the final regular season game was a loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, the Cowboys beat them in the playoffs, but if this holds true, that is done, then the Atlanta Falcons will beat Tom Brady in his final regular season game in the NFL. The Falcons, Sheldon.
Love it.
I love it. I'll say for me, my favorite game this year for Atlanta will have to be week 2. I think it was week 2. Was it week 2? When they played the Rams, that was week 2, right?
It was either week 2 or week 3.
I believe it was one of those two. But when they went to LA to play the Rams, dude, money, they were down 28-3.
Yeah.
Almost came back. But what I loved about that game was just, again, the resilience by the team, just battling back. Even Marcus Mariota, making plays. And so, and the defense just, crucial plays, right? Just getting stops on third down when you need to. Troy Anderson blocking that punt. That was a good play. He's a guy that, that emerged this season for them, especially later down the stretch starting, over Michael Walker. So, I think the Rams game was my favorite game. Unfortunately, we had a quarterback back there. So maybe that game could have been different. But no, it showed you that Archie Smith kept mentioning throughout the season that this team just keeps fighting. They fight, they work, they fight. And you saw that this year. So they finished 7-10, man. They're going to have, I think, the 8th pick in the draft. But, and they made a couple, hires this offseason, getting Ryan Nielsen from the Saints to be their defensive coordinator after Dean Pease retired. What do you think about that move?
I think, I wanted them to go ahead and go get, a big name like Brian Flores or, but, I'm actually content with Nelson. I think he, for the Saints, he's allowed them for the past, 3 years, have the top 10 defense. And he's especially a defensive line coach. So I think that's really going to bring in, a lot of boosts that these Atlanta fans need from that defensive line. So, I think it's a great pickup for him.
Yeah, I do too. You mentioned like a name like Brian Flores. Of course, the Falcons did interview him, but obviously he did not come here. I would Vic Fangio I would have liked to, but no. Nielsen, I think he's a good, like you said, he's a good fit. I mean, of course, coming from the Saints, where they have been like top in the league in sacks, like last 3 or 4 years, like you mentioned, and of course, dude, he's worked with some good defensive linemen over there. Cam Jordan being one of them. He's been a thorn in our sides for like how long in Atlanta, particularly in Matt Ryan's side, like maybe his right side, like literally thorn in his right side because he's left defensive end. So
a terror.
That's where he came off the edge. Dude, I'll never forget, man. But yeah, so working with those guys in New Orleans, and even on the second and third levels, man, Mario Davis, those guys, like they have great defense in New Orleans. So bringing that mindset and mentality to Atlanta, I think it's gonna be really interesting for the Falcons here.
Yeah,
maybe finally get some pass rush. The Falcons have not been a top pass rush team since I believe. I don't remember.
Super Bowl year?
Maybe. Even then it was Vic.
He
had 14.5 sacks, but he's just kind of like a Where's Waldo situation.
One and done.
With him. So, but yeah, dude, like pass rush is important. You got to be able to rush the passer in this league to win. You have to. It's essential. And so for the Falcons, you gotta. They're gonna have a lot of cap space this offseason, and I think they have to go after a pass rusher. Is there anybody you in mind that you would like to see them try to get?
Realistically, I don't think there is anybody this year. Probably next free agency they would have a good chance, but I don't think it'll be past that. But there's a guy like Yannick Ngakoue, I believe that could create some pressure there. There was one player, I can't remember his name, but I know he would be perfect for it, for Atlanta's defense, but I can't remember his name.
What team did he play for?
He had like 10.5 sacks this year. Or no. What was his name? It's really on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. He was a D tackle. He was a D tackle this year. Had a really great season.
Did he happen to play for the Eagles?
No, he's somewhere AFC in the line of he's in the AFC.
Okay.
Oh.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll come back. But yeah. This free agency, I think whoever is the best available pass rusher, we have to at least try to go get. Because this draft class, as we know, it's not really, shocking anybody or, eyes popping. But we have to go get either the top 3 best available pass rushers, in my opinion, to see which one sticks. Because if we get those and then we have the development of Nielsen coming in to create, that pressure that we desperately needed. I think that defense could potentially become a top 5 defense.
Top 5, man. That is bold. That is bold.
Top 5.
I mean, they had a top 10 defense in 2017, but you say top 5, man. That's very bold. So, no, you're right though. Like, because at the end of the day, even if you have a bad secondary, you have a good pass rush. I mean, that'll help them out. So it's like, they won't get exposed as much. I mean, you look at the 49ers, dude. Like, they had a relentless pass rush, and those guys back there in the secondary. I mean, look, Travis Ward is no discredit to him. He's a good corner. Diamondo Lenore, he came on late, but those aren't like nothing spectacular. But you know what? That their pass rush was so good that those guys they could hold up. So they didn't have any too many threats back there. So when you have a good pass rush, they can just get after the offense just relentlessly, like down after down. Every time that you're passing the football, dude, that's like, it must be really nice, dude. So like, that must be really nice. That must be really nice.
Yeah, we haven't had that in a while, but hopefully, it'll probably be this good. Another guy I just thought of, we could get Marcus Davenport. Although he did have a slow start this season, only I think it was one sack this year. That 2021 year, he had 10 and a half. So I think, we bring him in, Nielsen could develop him, add him into the mix with Ebiketie, Grady, and I think that's really about it for our most skilled. Yeah.
When you look at it, pretty much, those are your talented pass
and then maybe we could re-sign not Dante Fowler. Who's the Dante Fowler is a guy to keep out for. He did have a good year with the Cowboys this year.
No, I look, man. I'm sorry, dude, but this is the Falcons fan coming out of me. But I try to stay as unbiased as I can on the show. But we are talking about the Falcons here today. So, but Dante Fowler, when he was in Atlanta, underperformed tremendously. So like if you're paying a guy to rush the passer, like he needs to be up on his feet rushing the passer, not on the ground, not falling down, not swirling around. I need you in the face of the quarterback. Which in Dallas he was. He was getting after the passer. I don't know what. Maybe it's something about Atlanta that it's just like I don't know why. Like a lot of players don't play to the best of their ability that I know they can play when they come here. I don't know what it is about Atlanta, but it's just a trend I've noticed. So, anyway, go ahead.
I think it was really what Dallas had a pass rush because Micah Parsons on the other side. He's going to create a double team, so that helps Fowler easily. Get to the quarterback, but Dallas's defense has a far better pass rush than ours, and far better skilled players. So it makes it easier for them. Yeah. But I think that's really what it was for us. We just didn't have the guys to, help him like how Grady was.
Right. Yeah, you got to be able to rush the passer, bro. And another thing, we talked about this before too, is the middle of the field. The Falcons struggled tremendously covering the middle of the field. Especially whether it was crossing routes across the middle, tight ends or slot receivers. Like the Falcons had issues covering the middle of the field. That's been a problem for them the last couple of seasons. Is that something you picked up on too?
Yeah, our coverage anywhere across the field is just terrible. But I think it really starts with the linebackers. They have the guys coming inside, guys like Rashad, Troy, and Mikel. They weren't the best of pass rushers. I think realistically, only one of them was a really passing linebacker, and it was maybe Evans at best, maybe Troy too. But I don't think we look for guys for that anymore because the way Dan Pease ran his offense, he He wanted the linebacker coming down, blitzing through the middle. You know, he always sent an extra guy, and where that extra guy would go, that's where the ball would go. Pinpoint.
Simple, right? You know, so it's little things like that the Falcons have to get better at, and I think they will. You know, like I said, they're gonna have a lot of cap space this off season. You know, so I'm interested to see how they spend it. And they got like 9 draft picks, so that's gonna be interesting as well. You know, and I'm really just looking forward to see how they attack the draft. But that we'll do another episode on that another day for the draft specifically and free agency. But I just wanted to touch on that, you know, real quick. But now our last little tidbit here before we get off, man. Who do you got in the Super Bowl and why?
This year's Super Bowl?
This year's Super Bowl, Super Bowl 57 in Arizona.
Right now, I have the Eagles upsetting the Chiefs. You know, I think it could go to maybe the final few drives of the game, the way how both offenses are, because they're both very different offenses, yet they're so powerful in what they run. Like they've mastered it. The Eagles, we all know, came in to the season spending big, signing almost every big free agent you could think of, you know, adding reinforcement to their roster to where one guy goes down, guess what? The other guy, he's gonna show up. But, you know, the Chiefs, on the other hand, you know, the Chiefs have been in this situation before. We know they're a playoff juggernaut, the best team in the NFL, realistically. But, you know, it's going to be an offensive slugfest.
Okay, you think so?
I don't think the defenses are going to maybe hold their own for about a few plays, but it's going to really come down to the key plays. Like a key third down stop in the second quarter could be the decision that, you know, changes. And plus, also, I think the Eagles are a more aggressive team, especially just like how they played the 49ers. You know, it was a slugfest all around. There were flags going out everywhere. Everybody was being, you know.
Yeah, like the 49ers went through like 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Eagles showed, you know, what they can do and that they're ready for this situation. And, you know, I'm kind of rooting for him because, you know, I think Patrick Mahomes needs to get put in this place, you know, show him that he's not Mr. Invisible, not Mr. the next Tom Brady. But, you know, I'm rooting for Jalen, you know, seeing a kid get drafted in the second round and, you know, making just out of the jump, he was already getting doubted by everyone. And, you know, to see him make it to the Super Bowl, you know, possibly win MVP, you know, I just love to see it. The Eagles are really the underdog team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are. It's going to be a good game. Like I said, it's going to come down to those key stops, and you know, if the defense are going to be able to hold up, right? And so that's going to be a big thing for both teams. But we'll see what happens. Super Bowl 57 is going to be on Sunday, February 12th, 6:30 on Fox in Arizona. So we'll catch that. Make sure you guys don't miss that one. It's going to be a good one. Sheldon, thank you for coming on to the podcast. We enjoy having you on here. First time on Jay's Fit Down. So everybody give a round of applause for Sheldon here. He did pretty good for his first time on the podcast.
Glad to be here, brother. Glad to be here.
Of course, man. We'll be talking with you later, man. And you take it easy, bro. And make sure, well, rise up, bro. Right?
Rise up. Yeah.
All right, man. Take it easy, bro.
You too, brother, man.